Record. And
Okay.
hi everyone, I'm Beth. I'm a librarian at Beaverton City Library, and you're here for our virtual How-To Fest. And Linda from the Genealogical Society of Washington County, Oregon is here to tell us how we can get started with our genealogy research. So Linda, take it away.
Okay, thank you. My name is Linda Meyer. I'm the current president of the Genealogical Society of Washington County, Oregon, otherwise known as the GSWCO. We've been around for almost 30 years, and that almost matches the time I've been researching. And so that takes me back to the end of the 80s, and no computers, no Ancestry, no FamilySearch, none of that wonderful stuff that we have now. What we're going to do is, when I talk about resources, I'm only talking about the free resources. I don't need you to spend lots of money in the beginning. So let me just get my presentation up. Okay, and let me get this up. Okay, you always want to ask this question when you're starting with a family or a new family, and what do you know about this family and how do you know it? I mean, some of our stuff is, well, grandma told me, and that's wonderful because grandma may be correct. Or maybe you inherited some papers and that's what you're starting with. But when you go back another generation, do you know anything about what came before? And if it's nothing, then that's what you're starting with. Example, well, what do you know about yourself? How do you know it? What records would present facts about you? Now, I assume, and it's only an assumption, you have your birth certificate or a marriage certificate. You have school diplomas. You may even have your old report cards, baptismal certificates, things like that. But how many of those records are online? Probably not many. No doubt the counties in which you were born, married, divorced, have digitized a lot of those records, but they're not online for you to look at. So we're going to concentrate, you need to gather up those records and organize them, and we'll talk a little bit about organizing. You're going to ask relatives for their recollection. I'm going to give you some sample sheets that you can record information. A lot of them are called family group sheets, which is where you put down information about a nuclear family, and pedigree charts, which show several generations on a page. And you want to keep them organized by dating them and indicating who filled out the information. I know I sent out lots of family group sheets to cousins and got some of them back completed. So it was a great help, but obviously if all of them had responded, I'd be in a much better place. Now this is a sample form. It's called a family unit chart. It can also be called a family group sheet. This is a sample from the Mid-Continent Public Library in Missouri. They have a genealogy center, a very famous genealogy center, and they offer forms for free. And this is their form. Please note that the husband is on the top, the wife comes after, and then the children are all listed. This particular form is two-sided, gives you space for 12 children. And if you go back far enough, you're going to find families that had 12 or more children. And it gives you space for birth, marriage, death, for date and location, and information about the prior generation. And finding a woman's maiden name can be a very big challenge. I'm not going to go into that right now. I'm just trying to get the basics all taken care of. So this is the family unit chart or group sheet. And I gave in my handout, which you can download from the library, gives the website address for the Mid-Continent Public Library's Genealogy Center. This is an ancestor chart or pedigree chart from the same public library. And the person, let's say you put your name here, your father is up here with birth where, death where, marriage where, and then your mother would be down here.
Linda,
Yes.
we can't see, all we can see is the first slide. Are you moving slides? Because we can't.
Yes, I've been moving slides.
So that's weird then, because we can't see you moving the slides.
Oh, nuts. Well, let me go back.
I'm actually looking at the document that was on the Beaverton website with the How To Fest. There was a document I just downloaded, and that's what I'm looking at, and that sounds like what she's talking about.
Yeah, I think we do want to be able to see some of these slides, though.
Yeah, you know, let me see if I can just get out of this. Is this better? Can
Yeah.
you see it? Okay.
Now we can see slide. You've moved. Yeah.
Okay, let me then move them this way. Okay, it'll be a smaller image, but here's the family unit chart. Husband on top, wife next, and then all of the children. Oops, okay. Moved too far. The ancestor chart, this goes back actually 5 generations. If this is you are the first generation. Your father, grandfather is 3rd, great-grandfather, and then great-great-grandfather. I was not able to get the whole screenshot in the square. So that's why it looks a little cut off. Okay, so next. Okay, and we have myths in genealogy, and you have to be aware of them because they're only myths. And we'll go over them quickly. Names were not changed at Ellis Island or any other port of entry. Your ancestor got on the boat from wherever, with papers. The name on the paper helped create the passenger manifest at the point of departure. And the name at departure has to agree with the name on arrival. After they left Ellis Island, then they may have changed their name. But when they went for citizenship, they may have had to say, okay, I arrived and my name was Heinrich Steinkemeyer, but I want to go forward as Henry Meyer. And that's actually a true story. There was a family named Steinkemeyer in Washington County, and they changed their name from Steinkemeyer to Meyer. All the records that you had to show that you were Steinkemeyer on arrival, but on your citizenship form, you could say, but now I want to be Meyer. Okay, all the records were not destroyed in the war. Yes, there were lots of records destroyed in war, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and this is still happening today. We periodically hear about a library that caught on fire, and there's been a loss of the records there. But when, say, the Iron Curtain came down, and a lot of the Eastern European archives opened up to the West, they found a lot of stuff has not disappeared. And I can say from my research in Germany, lots of church records were not destroyed. So I've got many records going back to the 1500s. We are descended from a Cherokee princess. Native American tribes do not have princesses or princes or dukes or duchesses. Their forms of government did not include that. Okay, so can we welcome Geraldine?
Yeah, hi,
Oh,
Gerald.
weird.
Okay, and one of the last ones is, hi. Our family always spelled the name as, not necessarily. My maiden name was McLean, and Clan McLean has 22 accepted versions of spelling. Now, most of mine were fairly simple to follow, was MAC or MC, and sometime in one case it was, instead of LEAN, it was LAIN. Spelling does not count in genealogy. You have to accept that prior generations weren't as literate as we are. And you shouldn't be surprised that an ancestor only went to second grade. So they knew enough to do basic adding, subtracting, and basic spelling out things more or less phonetically. Finding everything on the internet. Only about 2% of records may be on the internet. There are archives, and one of them is the National Archives, where a very small amount of material has even been digitized. Some days, though, it does appear like everything is on the internet. And another rule to keep in mind, never assume anything. Assuming can get you into a lot of trouble, like we call it barking up the wrong tree. Okay. Okay, now we're going to get into some essential free websites for the beginner. First of all, Ancestry Library Edition, you can access from home as long as the library is closed due to the pandemic. And there's also Ancestry Free Edition, which you can access on your own. Both of these only have US records. So if you're like me, but all grandparents were born outside the United States, this is not going to help much. FamilySearch, you would automatically get records from around the world. It's free. And there's Find a Grave. We're going to actually try some of these websites now. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this screen. And I'm going to, where is my, I'll go there, see if I can get to the, okay, here we go. This is the basic search screen from Ancestry.com. And I have signed in under my account, and I'm going to pick on my grandfather. So you don't have to capitalize anything. And you can just type in, now you can put the full middle name in or not, or go to initials, or use a nickname. That you may end up having to try all of those to find the record. So I'm just going to hit search and see what we get. Thinking, thinking, thinking. Okay, now the first record, the second record is not my grandfather. Okay, the first record that I know, and I don't know why they have the free trial, and this is his death record. Can everyone see this? I'm going to pull it up. Okay. And I have a tree on Ancestry. That's why there's this check mark. So I'm going to scroll up. This gives his birth date, and his birthplace is Canada. Decatur Avenue is actually in the Bronx. And he died at work in Manhattan. This particular database gives his cause of death. And he is buried, gives his burial date and where he's buried. Gives his, you know, both, a lot of death records, death certificates will include parent's name and obviously the spouse. Okay, so that's the first record that happened to come up. Now, Ancestry gives you some choices here, and I can tell you that a lot of these are correct. Here's one that I love showing people because it's the US World War I draft registration. And this is a big database. And I'm going to try to pull up the image. There we go. Okay, and I will try to, because all these pictures, everyone's pictures is covering up the magnifier. So
you can move it.
okay, well, let's not worry about that. I'll briefly, this is a wonderful database because this person here who signed this form completed all of this on the draft registration. And down here at the bottom on the left, that's my grandfather's signature. So, and at that point they lived on 8th Avenue, not Decatur Avenue. They moved frequently. My father said, which is a terrible thing to say about your mother, Grandma did not want to paint the apartment, so we'd move. So they moved a lot. I don't know about the painting. It may be true. Okay, so that's some of the stuff that comes up quickly. On all of these databases, they put the large databases first, the census, Social Security, the military records. They have a card catalog that you can ask for, okay, I want records from Boston, Massachusetts, and it will bring up just Boston, Massachusetts. And let me see if there's a link to the catalog. No. You'd have to go back to the basic search screen. Now, if we want the card catalog, view all in card catalog. I want Boston, Massachusetts. Okay, and it starts bringing up items in the Boston, Massachusetts area. That may or may not fit any of my relatives. Okay, so that is Ancestry. Let's hop over.
Is that, so when you went to the Boston, Massachusetts, did you still have your grandfather's name up there? Oh, okay.
He does not have a, I just picked Boston, Massachusetts as a keyword.
Okay, and then you could see what there is to search
Right.
in Boston. Okay.
Okay, now this is FamilySearch. You can set up an account for free. No one's going to come to your door or call you on the phone. I put my grandfather's information in again. We'll see what FamilySearch brings up first. Oh, come on. they signed me out. Okay, hold on. Okay, so they also bring up their death index for my grandfather, but it has somewhat less information than Ancestry did. But if a family history center was open, this is one of the locations at an LDS church that has a family search center, I could use their computer and look at what's restricted on this form. So, and the tools here would just say, okay, I can print it, I can email this to myself or to someone else. Now at the bottom of the records, and this goes for Ancestry as well, they give you source information, or should. Okay, now I can't get it to raise up. There we go. And if we click here, this will give us some sourcing information, because you really need to keep track of where this information comes from. Okay, find a grave. They have over 190 million memorials. This is all collected by volunteers. This is totally free. I've put my grandfather in again. And they found one record. And this has a picture, a volunteer has taken a picture of his headstone. I've never been to this cemetery. We click on the headstone and everyone could see a closer picture of the headstone. Okay, we'll close that. And if we look down here, someone has put links to other websites or another gravestone for members of the family. This is my great-grandfather, and obviously this marker needs a cleaning, but it gives his information too. I've been to this cemetery up in Vancouver. Go back. His wife is buried there, and their youngest son is buried there. Their daughter Margaret is also buried there. And this is my aunt, and she is buried in New Jersey. So this can be a fabulous, now I would say a good portion of the links don't have a picture, but you can request that a volunteer go out and take the picture. Okay, the next, okay, this is your online card catalog for genealogy, Cindy's list. This has over 300,000 links. And so what I did, adoption is a big mover. And it gives you web links to various informational sources. So you can spend many hours, obviously, if this is what you need help on. And let's see. Family Tree Magazine, you don't have to sign up for the magazine to get their free stuff. They have basic charts and worksheets. They have their own ancestor chart. If you have an adoptive, okay, this slid down, adoptive family tree, a step family tree, a relationship chart, which is this. I can't show you these because you have to download them to your computer. A relationship chart would help you figure out what is a second cousin once removed. Because as you get a bigger family tree, you're going to have to do something organizationally and be able to put people. This is like an unlimited jigsaw puzzle. And YouTube has a ton of videos. I've just put in genealogy research here. You could put in family history research or just genealogy, and you will come up with pages and pages and pages of videos. They get moved around because like Ancestry will take something down and update it and repost it. But you get a lot of help there. So now I'm going to go back to my handout or slides. Chronicling America is a newspaper website that's held by the Library of Congress. And Oregon News is Oregon newspapers that are digitized and online at the University of Oregon. Heritage Quest, which we didn't do, you can also access through the library using your library card. What are you going to do? I'd consider purchasing some software, but do your research first. And for the paper copies, you're going to decide, I'm going to keep this as paper. Am I going to scan it into the computer? Am I going to put it up in the cloud? Or am I going to keep it in file folders or binders? If you're going to anything on the computer, back it up frequently. If you're doing lots of research every Saturday, back it up. You don't know when that computer crash is coming. You're going to keep track of your sources. There's lots of forms for research logs, keeping track of what you still need. And where can you get help? A genealogy society, a historical society, libraries, and obviously the internet. And my big red letter question, the only stupid question is the one you don't ask, because someone may know the answer. You just don't give up. You have to be patient but persistent, which sort of says like two sides of the coin, but it's true. New records are always being added. You check back every so often, not every week, but maybe in 6 months, try again and see if a new database is added or the existing database is updated and more is added. And remember, this is supposed to be fun, and you share your findings and take your time, don't rush. And so if there are any questions, I'll take them now. Anything?
And
everyone understands everything.
You can type in the chat if you want, or take a minute to think about it. If you know, this was just a brief interview, so there's still a brief overview, so there's still a lot to dig into with this, and luckily Linda provided us with some resources.
Right.
I'm going to stop the recording, and if you would like to stay and ask a question, please feel free.